In 2015, a family living in Utah, USA, started a YouTube channel. The channel was called 8 Passengers, meaning 8 people on a journey. There was Kevin the father, Ruby the mother, and their 6 children. Their videos were truly beautiful. They ate together, laughed together, and worshiped together as a family. Viewers couldn't help but think, does a family like this really exist? The number of subscribers grew rapidly. 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, and eventually 2.5 million. Their total views surpassed 1 billion. People loved this family. Ruby became known as the Dream Mom, and her parenting style was praised across the United States as a model to follow. However, on August 30th, 2023, a single 911 call shocked the entire United States. A child had knocked on a neighbor's door. He was 12 years old. His wrists and ankles were bound with tape, and his body was severely emaciated. He had not eaten properly for days. Who was his mother? It was Ruby Franca, one of the most beloved YouTuber moms in America. Born in Utah in 1983, Ruby Franca was raised in a devout Mormon household. She married Kevin Franca, and together they had 6 children. Their eldest son, Chad, their daughter, Sherry, and then Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve. 8 in total. That is how the channel name 8 Passengers was born. In its early days, Ruby's videos were truly distinctive. They showed how she disciplined her children, how the family spent time together, and how she instilled values in her kids. Viewers said, "Watching this family gives me hope." They said, "I want to raise my children like her." Videos were uploaded every week, and each moment of the family's daily life became a source of comfort and inspiration for subscribers. In 2020, the year the world was confined indoors by COVID-19, a shift began to emerge on Ruby's channel. One day, she said this in a video, "One of our children made a poor choice. So for the past 7 months, he hasn't been allowed to go into his room. He's been sleeping on a beanbag in the corner of the living room." At first, viewers overlooked it. They thought, perhaps it's just her way of disciplining. But the unsettling videos continued. Scenes where a child said they were hungry and was not given food. Scenes where she told the children coldly that Santa Claus would not be bringing gifts that year. Scenes where one child was sent away to a so-called troubled teen camp. And Ruby said this, "If a child doesn't suffer enough, true repentance cannot happen. Gentle parenting ruins children." She said it directly in front of the camera, without hesitation. The audience split into 2 sides. Those who said, "This is child abuse," and those who argued, "It is simply strict discipline based on religious belief." Ruby remained completely unmoved by the criticism. Instead, she called her critics non-believers. She said they were people who do not understand our family's way, and the channel continued to grow, despite the rising voices of criticism. In 2022, one day, without warning, Kevin's presence began to disappear from the channel. Viewers asked, "Where did Kevin go?" Ruby responded calmly, "We're currently living separately for a while. The children are fine, and we are still a family." But the reason Kevin left the house was not simply marital conflict. According to what was later revealed, he had begun to feel that Ruby's behavior was becoming increasingly unusual, especially after she met a woman named Jody Hildebrandt. She was a licensed counselor in Utah, and she ran a self-improvement channel called Connexions. In 2022, shortly after her own channel was suspended, Ruby Franca began working at Jody's company as a mental health coach. The two of them then launched a joint YouTube channel. and started appearing together. They said, "We teach families faith and balance." But Kevin noticed something. As Ruby came under Jody's influence, she began to treat the children differently, more and more so over time. What Jody Hildebrandt taught was this: if a child behaves badly, it means the devil has entered them. To cast the devil out, the child must suffer enough. If parents keep their children comfortable, they are nurturing the devil. On the surface, it appeared to be a form of religious belief, but it was not faith. It was indoctrination. Ruby Franca trusted Jody completely. No beyond trust, she submitted to her. She believed that everything Jody said was the will of God, and that belief was directed in full toward her own children. Jody Hildebrandt told Ruby this: "Some of your children are already possessed by the devil. Giving them food and a place to sleep only makes the devil stronger. When children are hungry and in pain, the devil leaves their bodies." Ruby Franca nodded. She believed it was love, a form of love meant to save her children. Now I will tell you what really happened behind the camera. Ruby and Jody took 2 of the children and brought them to Jody's house. A 12-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. What happened to these children? They were starved every day. Their water intake was restricted. There were no beds. They were not even allowed to enter the room. On summer days, they were made to stand barefoot for hours on scorching concrete exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. They were not allowed to wear shoes. They were forced to carry heavy boxes and repeatedly go up and down the stairs. They were made to hold a sitting position against the wall for hours. There were no chairs, and when they tried to escape, their hands and feet were tied with rope. Ruby wrote all of this in her journal, a journal written in her own hand. Later, when it was revealed in court, it contained entries like these: "Today the child refused the wall sit. I made the child sleep outside. Even if it rains, they must stay outside. That is repentance. Today marks the 2nd day of the children fasting. It feels like the devil is leaving them. Things are happening just as Teacher Jody said." This was a record of abuse, and she believed it was a record of love. On the afternoon of August 30th, 2023, in a quiet residential neighborhood in Evans, Utah, the door of a house slowly opened. A child stepped out onto the street. The child was severely malnourished, with wounds on their feet and tape marks left on their hands and ankles. The child knocked on a neighbor's door. When the neighbor opened it, they froze at the sight of the child standing there. The child said, "I'm hungry, please help me." The neighbor immediately called 911. When the police arrived, the 12-year-old boy was so thin that his bones were visible. He had not eaten properly for 10 days. And what the police found inside the house, a 9-year-old girl. She was in the same condition. The police immediately searched the entire house. And at the scene, they arrested Ruby Franca and Jody Hildebrandt. At the moment of their arrest, Ruby said nothing. Jody was the same. It took only a few hours for the news to spread across the United States. The 8 passengers YouTuber mom arrested on child abuse charges. The 2.5 million subscribers who heard the news could hardly believe their eyes. But there is something we need to confront here. Ruby Franca's child abuse did not begin suddenly. It unfolded gradually over years in front of the camera. In 2020, when a child was not allowed to enter a room for 7 months, would you have simply overlooked it? In 2021, when a video showed food being denied to a starving child, did you accept it as strict discipline? In fact, thousands of viewers had already raised warnings. In the comments, on social media, through YouTube's reporting system. But those voices were buried. by the majority who believed. A channel loved by 2.5 million people couldn't be doing something like that. By the leniency that said, we should respect religious discipline, and by the atmosphere that discouraged criticism of a famous YouTuber. And we, the subscribers, the algorithm, continued to consume this family's content. Ruby's profits kept rising, and the children continued to suffer within it. In December 2023, Ruby Franca and Jody Hildebrandt stood in court. Ruby pleaded guilty to 4 out of 6 felony child abuse charges. In the courtroom, Ruby shed tears for the first time, and she said, I believed that what I was doing was right, but I was wrong. I harmed my children in horrific ways. This is the greatest shame and regret of my life. On February 20th, 2024, a Utah District Court judge sentenced Ruby to a prison term of a minimum of 4 years and a maximum of 30 years. On the same day, Jody Hildebrandt received the same sentence. During the trial, 3 of Ruby's children came forward to testify in court. One of them said this to the judge, I love my mom, but what she did was wrong. I was afraid for a long time, but now I'm in a safe place. I'm okay. Those brief words, that quiet courage, left the entire courtroom in silence. So, how are the children doing now? Most of Ruby's 6 children are reportedly living with their father, Kevin Franca, or are under the care of trusted family members. The 2 children who suffered the most severe abuse are receiving psychological treatment and are said to be gradually returning to their daily lives. In an interview, Kevin Franca said, I should have acted sooner. That is my greatest regret. But now my children are alive. They are safe and they are smiling. That is enough. The rest will be healed with time. In 2025, Hulu released a documentary about this case, Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franca. In December of the same year, Netflix also released Evil Influencer, The Jody Hildebrandt Story. Both documentaries quickly rose to the top of global charts upon release. This story resonated with people around the world, not simply because it was shocking. Every day we watch dozens of videos. Someone's daily life, someone's family, someone's moments of happiness. But the camera is not always on. And when the screen goes dark, things we cannot see may be happening. Second, when something feels off, should we ignore that instinct? In this case, thousands of people had already raised warnings. But the silence of the majority buried those voices. If more people had spoken up, could those children have been rescued sooner? Third, how much are we willing to tolerate? Under the name of religion or belief, Ruby Frank abused her children in the name of faith. But no religion, no belief can ever justify starving, restraining, or abusing a child. The end of this story is not Ruby's arrest, nor Jody's sentencing. The end of this story is that a 12-year-old child knocked on a neighbor's door, emaciated to the point that bones showed, with tape marks on hands and ankles. The child said, I'm hungry. It was a will to survive. It was the courage to stay alive. The child escaped alone. The child asked for help on their own. The child survived. And now that child is growing up somewhere. Somewhere they are smiling. I believe that fact, after all this, is what should remain in our hearts. If this story has stayed with you today, please take another look at the children around you. Most abused children cannot say, help me. As adults, we need to open our eyes for them first. If this video was helpful, please subscribe and share. Your sharing could make this story reach someone in need. Leave your thoughts in the comments. How can we see the truth beyond the screen? We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.